You are listening to the Starter Girls podcast with Jennifer Loading. Whether you are starting a project, starting a business, starting a brand, or starting a movement, we are here to talk about it. And I'm super excited to welcome my guest on. So we're going to get this show started. Today is a great day to be brave. You might as well start now. You have the power to change your circumstances any day you decide. Let today be that day. Rise up, be amazing, be you, do you. All right, guys, I have Vanessa Ogle on the show today. Welcome, Vanessa.
Hi, thanks for having me.
And I love your backdrop back there. She's sitting in front of it. Looks like a lake or something over there. I'm loving it. Loving it.
It is. It's beautiful.
I love it. So I'm going to tell our listeners a little bit about you real quick, and then we will jump right into this. So Vanessa Ogle is the founder and CEO of Enseo, one of the fastest growing companies in America, providing technology services to people, places like hotels and schools. Vanessa is a passionate mother, wife, inventor, innovator, and musician, and has revolutionized industries with endeavors like being the first to bring Netflix to hotel rooms and developing an employee safety system to protect women and children in hotels and schools. As a leader in technology and a minority woman business owner, Vanessa has been awarded more than 38 U.S. patents. She regularly appears as an industry expert on national broadcast programs, including Bloomberg Radio, Fox Business, and Yahoo Finance, and has led Enseo to be recognized for excellence as one of the best entrepreneurial companies in America by Entrepreneur Magazine's Entrepreneur 360 lists, INC 5000, and the 10th fastest growing women-owned led company by Women's Presidents Organization. In addition to her day job, Vanessa is a lead singer and rhythm guitarist for her band, Jim, who perform at multiple venues around Dallas and company events held throughout the year. Vanessa's husband is the lead guitarist for the band, and they have 3 children living at home with them. So welcome to the show, Vanessa. I'm so excited to chat with you today.
Thank you so much for having me.
I love it. So you've got so many great things going on here. And, it's so fun because I originally, I have to tell you, I reached out to you because I wanted to get you on the show because for our listeners, those of you, we get the Sunday morning paper. That is the only part of the Dallas paper that we get is Sunday morning. And I can tell you exactly where I was sitting the day that I reached out to you, Vanessa, because I was in my backyard and my husband comes up and he brings me the article. And on the front page of the business section of the Dallas Morning News is Vanessa's picture with her family. And he's like, this is somebody you need to talk to. And so my husband is a great scout. I love doing this podcast because he's always talking about people. And I have such great people in my life that I hardly ever really have to go out and find people because they're always bringing people my way. So I love it. So
That's fabulous.
Grateful that you took the time to be on here with us and let our listeners listen to what you've got going on. And so want to jump right into this. So tell us a little bit about how you've got 2 things going on here because you've got this band that you created and you've got this company you've created. And so 2 different things as a woman here. I really want to dive into this and talk about this company that came about. How long has it been around and what kind of inspired you to get this going?
Well, I founded Enseo 2 decades ago. So a little over 20 years ago now. And, I wasn't even 30 years old at the time. And so I said, I'm glad I didn't know any better or I wouldn't have done it because I didn't know how hard it was going to be to start a business right before 9/11 and the crash of 2008. And now, of course, we're sitting in the middle of the COVID crisis. So I am so thankful that I started it when I did. Because if I didn't, I wouldn't have had those experiences of going through those challenging market times before and understand what we needed to do this time so that we could really be ready to rise up and be ready to face the task in front of us.
I love that. So yeah, you've been around. So you've gone through a couple different crises already. And these are all so different. All of these are completely different. And we've had to really, I think, as all of us as entrepreneurs have had to really learn to navigate through this. So I think this is great, when you're talking about this, that you started this 20 years ago, because you've weathered through this. So you've learned a few tricks, along the way that have helped you. So
makes all the difference.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I also I don't know about you, but I say sometimes it's just good to kind of jump into things and you just, cross that bridge when you get there, because if you spend so much time thinking about it, you sort of will talk yourself out of stuff, So I love that. So tell our listeners a little bit about what your company does, what makes you guys unique in this field. And I really love what you're doing.
So Enseo, and you said a great said it very well in the introduction. Enseo provides technology to people, places. And what that technology is and how it manifests itself is changing pretty dramatically right now. But historically, what it's been is that we are the company that if you have ever used Netflix in a hotel room, and that is our product. So we pioneered that. We did that first. We were the first company in the world that had a global license with Netflix to have Netflix in a hotel room in any country in the world where they had Netflix, which it was great because it had never been done before. And the team there at Netflix was just so incredibly supportive of me as a Latina woman business owner starting in this field. They were fantastic. But that technology, kind of increased over time. And I say my role as a mother really helped me to be a big multitasker. And so we can't have a technology that we invest in that does just one thing. It's always better if we can do multiple things at the same time. So that same solution that we put in not only did the in-room entertainment, but it did messaging to the guests. It did Wi-Fi to the guests. It did associate safety. So we added associate safety to protect those housekeepers as they are going about their job and their daily life. And then we took that same solution and we put it in schools, K through 12 schools, because nothing as a mom, again, makes me feel better than knowing that my children are safe. And so if we can keep teachers safe in classrooms and students safe in classrooms, that makes the world truly a better place for all of us to be. Now, little did I know that both the travel industry and the education industry would be hit so hard at the same time by this COVID crisis. But all that means is that when we found these new solutions, which we've come up with, which are, we call them return to readiness products, whether that is allowing for our parents to know that our teachers and our teachers to know that the teachers who've shown up at work have their masks in place if they're supposed to, that they have a safe temperature when they show up at work, that the kids that show up at school have safe temperatures to be there, and to be able to see as a parent that every single classroom that my children is going to, that they are safe, that they've been sanitized and cleaned, just like as a guest, for me to know that the room that I'm entering into as a guest has been sanitized, when it was sanitized, how it was sanitized, to not have to use the remote in the room and to be able to use my phone as the remote. So a whole suite of contactless technologies to be able to control the TV with your phone, the thermostat with your phone, to be able to check in just like I'm talking to you now,
Right.
instead of me having to walk up and see a person that has a mask on and me to have a mask on and us not to be able to see each other, and it's very not inviting.
Yeah.
I can look at you just like this and say, hey, how are you?
Right.
And all of a sudden we know that this is very personal.
Yeah.
This is very real. And so we've created this new way of interacting with each other. And so taking that into actually bringing more safety and security, both for associates and travelers, and hopefully students and teachers too.
I love that. I love that. And this kind of leads me into another question. I didn't really tell you about this, but because you're a mom and you can understand this, and I feel like, when I started my business, my oldest daughter was 2.5 years old and she's now 23. And so, and then I had 2 more children that are now 19 and 16. And so my kids have really been a part of my entrepreneurial journey. I feel like from the very beginning, like 2 of them were born, and I feel like this is kind of a similar thing that we're resonating with. So as I've got a lot of women that listen to this podcast, and really what I never talk about balance, because I don't really think balance is totally achievable, but I think harmony is achievable. I think that, I think it's one of those things where we have to find the harmony in life. So I would love to hear some thoughts from you on that. How you've juggled being a mom and navigating this as a woman that has created a business and been in that field. So anything you want to share with us about how you've managed to kind of make all that work for you?
Sure. And I think that I'm glad that you asked about it, especially for the women who are listening, because there are so many women that are having the opportunity now to experience this togetherness that I chose to have starting when my daughter was born, 14. And people didn't do this back then, right? They didn't have children in the workplace. You didn't have baby noises or children noises or dog noises or cats walking across the keyboard when you were a serious work person. You just didn't do that. It wasn't done. I did it. So I had a nursery at the office from day one. And actually before day one. So when I had a little bit of trouble with my pregnancy, and so my last trimester, I was on bed rest. And so my executive team meetings were actually at my home or at the hospital. So we could all be there together and have the team meetings and do the planning for the business. So my whole team was really involved in this part of my life as we started. And so then from the day the girls were born until now, they've always had their office at our workspace. And that first it had a crib, then it had a little bed. It's got a couch and a television and Wi-Fi service in it and a place for them to do their homework. And so when we were isolated at home for COVID-19, we had a leg up on most of the other families who were doing this for the first time, because we had been doing this our entire life, and their entire lives, I should say. And we just had rules that worked for us. And those rules that worked for us were, number one, there's always time for a hug and a kiss. I don't care what I'm doing. If I were on this podcast right now and my daughter walked up and said, "Mom, may I have a hug?" I would give her a hug and a kiss, and then she would go on her way, and it would be fine. But letting them know that they are the most important thing in my life, first and foremost, always. And that's really no different than anyone on our team should be more important than the work that we're doing. Because if we take our team members and we put them first, then the job gets done and it's better than it would have been otherwise, no matter what you're doing. And so putting your children first, putting your family first, there's an opportunity now for us as women who, in many ways, when I started my business, I had to act like a man, right? I had to show up. I had to kind of dress. All the first decade of my career, every time I went to a trade show, I had to wear men's clothes because that's all they ordered. They ordered men's golf shirts or men's button-down shirts, Oxfords that had the logo emblazoned on the side. They were always men's clothes. And so I always had to kind of find a way to make them work and tie them up and, put a shawl or a scarf or a thing and make it work. Well, now we have a beautiful opportunity. We are at the table now as women in business. So now we get to actually be women as women in business and embrace all of ourselves and not try to take that piece of us that loves, whether it's our friends or our family or our pets, but we can be all of ourselves and be at the workplace. So I think that's the time right now that's so important. In the specifics to that I would say, schedule your time. To give yourself time. Make sure that you leave breaks in your day like you just didn't do. You didn't do any breaks at all. I saw you go from one immediately into the other. You worked so hard. So at work, I have to make sure that my team understands that I need scheduling time and breaks so that I can help with homework. Right. I can make lunch. I can answer questions or deal with someone who's just had some horrible social media thing that has happened, because that's what happens with teenagers now, right? There's someone that's posted something on social media and they need to be taken care of and spoken with. Well, I need to be available for that. So making sure that I'm available for my children and my whole family, my husband too, when they need me to be available. And then, my kids know what I'm doing. They're a part of my world. They're a part of my business. So when I'm trying to get something done for work that needs to be done for work, they understand that and they support that. And they're very helpful and engaged with that we're doing. And it's not just me taking away from them. They actually feel invested in the work. So I think bringing those things together, I love that you say that it's not balance and it's harmony, because that's exactly what it is. Bringing things together doesn't have to be exactly the same, just a little bit above or a little bit below. But as long as it works together, it is harmonious and it works together quite well.
You said so many great things there. No, and I agree with you 100% because those are all things that I talk about all the time. And I know, when you came on this podcast, I was jumping from one to another, but I've only been here a couple hours, so I haven't been working all day. So I just work, I always joke about this. Like when I work, one of the things when I'm coaching people, I always talk about calendar blocking. And when I talk about that, I say, you put in the spots where you need to work and you carve in the times when you need to be with your family. That way the two do not collide. Yes, you bring your family into your work so they know what you're doing. But when you're with your family, that should be quality time and it shouldn't be interrupted by all the outside things that are going on. So I'm all about that. I love that. Yeah, I'm all about scheduling and being and prior. And I joke even, I'm up at 5 a.m. every single morning. I get up early every day. I like to read. I like to do my breakfast. I like to work out, walk my dogs. Yeah. But it's so funny because I don't even like to take phone calls before a certain time in the morning. And it's not because I'm mentally not there. I just value my morning time. I value that time for myself. And I see your dog back there right now as we're talking about walking dogs. I've got lots of pets, but I just really like that time. So I appreciate everything that you said because that resonates very much with me as well.
And I think that I hear you completely and agree with you 100%. And that time when I used to come home, when I used to drive home from the office, my trick was I would finish the phone call before I walked in the door. Because if I walked in the door still on the phone, then I lost that moment of that joy on my face when they went, Mama, you're home. And they were trying to receive me with all this joy, and I wasn't available to receive them like that. So I would even I would sit outside in the car and finish a call just so that when I walked in the door, I was free and present. And so for those of us who are working at home now, I've noticed even in myself some struggles between that transition time from work to home. And I used to listen to music and or have a phone call that was a wrap up phone call on the way home. And then when I walked in, I was ready to be home. So I've noticed needing a few minutes at the finish of my day to do that same thing for myself, so that when I walk downstairs to be with the children or my husband, that I am, again, fully present for them. So I agree with what you said. And the other thing that you said that so resonates is, as moms, as CEOs, I wrote in my newsletter last week, when we used to travel, we used to hear all the time, if there's a problem with cabin pressure, put your mask on first and then help those around you. And it seemed kind of selfish,
right,
until I realized that it's actually really important. We have to take care of ourselves because we are taking care of so many people around us, and we need to be able to be safe and healthy and fully present to be able to take care of our friends and family members. And so self-care and time to be centered, time to have enough capacity to listen, to help, to offer grace and mercy that we all need in abundance right now. That self-care is so important.
100%. You gave me chills when you said that, because I actually wrote about that in my book about the airplane thing. I wrote about that because people think all the time that when you take care of yourself, they think you're being selfish. But no, you can't pour from an empty cup. So if you're not taking care of you, you can't give to anybody else. So 100%.
That's right.
It has to be. And I love that you're talking about the whole just like taking that down before you walk in the door, because, there's been many times I used to joke about this when my kids were little. And I remember I was picking my middle child up from preschool, and the youngest was a baby, and they both would be asleep in the car. You never wake a sleeping baby. And I would be trying to take care of business while they were sleeping on the phone, right? I got it on my speakerphone.
Sure.
I'm trying to. And I would always have to be like, let me get this finished, because as soon as I park the car and I open the door, they're going to be wide awake and like nothing's going to get done.
Yes.
So you learn to navigate as a mom. And so I love all this information, because I think so many moms are trying to figure out, how do they juggle that? I'm trying to be a businesswoman, but I'm also this mom, and they have that guilt. And I really think when you really get to the bottom of this and you realize that taking time for yourself is important, but work smart. When you're working, work, and let that go when you're with your family. Then that guilt can go away. It erases, and there's no more of that. So I love all of that. It's so amazing. So I want to jump into another thing, because obviously you've got like 38 patents. You're extremely successful in what you do. And so what I'd like to talk about, because I'm feeling a lot of parallels here, is really just the mindset behind this. Like when you're going after something, what does this really look like for you in your headspace? Like what are your process for doing this kind of stuff?
Well, this is a good example. So the COVID time is a really good example. Our primary business, as much as we're trying to get into K through 12 schools, has been hospitality in the hotel industry. So when this all blew up, the first thing that we did was we took care of our people, and I sent people home before anybody that I knew of sent people home. I took travel down before anyone I knew took travel down, because I wanted my team to be safe. Then we had to decide, make hard decisions quickly, which we made. But when we had the opportunity to bring our people back to work, which we did, just the first day that we were able to do that, what we all focused on was, how do we find a solution? What are the problems that we need to solve for? And so I started listening. And so to listen, I had to connect. So I called all the people that I knew of. And first we ideated. So my chief technology officer he co-founded the business with me. And we're very yin and yang as a business couple, as it were. He and his wife have been happily married for over 25 years. And my husband and I are very happily married, but we all tease about the fact that Bill and I work very, very well together at the office. And I come up with these crazy ideas, and he makes them into reality. And so it's just the perfect combination of our name, Enseo means to think and to do. So it's kind of the way that it balances out. I think about stuff and he does it. Now, he also thinks about things and I also do things. But so finding, what those solutions are that we need to have. And we just threw a whole bunch of stuff at the wall. What are all the things that we think we're going to need? And we're going to need contactless technology to be able to walk into a room and not touch things. We're going to need to be able to check into a hotel. We're going to need to be able to clean a room. How do we clean? We actually developed a UVC light product that rolls into a room and plugs in, and you have these little pieces that come off the cart and slide to the different pieces of the room. So it starts with an ugly drawing on the board with an idea, and then that drawing gets refined and refined and refined. And we threw out 2 of the ideas that we started with. So we started with 10 ideas, and out of those 10 ideas, we've thrown out 2, and 3 of the ideas have kind of duplicated into more than one. It's not one product, it's actually 2 products. We split them apart. And so the team, we just said, okay, you go work on this, you go work on that, you go work on that. And the most beautiful thing about what happened was we have this big engineering team, right? And the engineering team, they were busy. They had more than enough to do. They had full plates of things to do. And we walked in, in the middle of this crisis and said, well, thanks for being here. We're so excited that you guys are here. All the things that you've been working on, you're not going to work on that anymore. Now you're going to go work on this and this and that and the other thing. And they all just did it, right? I think, and that's about culture and that's about trust. And so the ability for this team to trust these crazy, they build in-room entertainment systems and security systems and networking systems. For me to say, go build a thermometer, I want you to go build a thermometer that someone can walk up to that can tell you, do they have a mask on? Do they have a temperature that hooks to our cloud system? I want you to go build a UVC light that does these other, we went so far in different directions from what we have normally done. And the fact that this team trusted me enough to follow these crazy ideas and they made them better. I started with an idea that's this big, right? And then they make it the full encompass solution and they make it available to, we actually have our first check-in product live and up and running at a major brand hotel. And we've checked in hundreds of guests with this remote technology. And so, the team being willing to just jump in and run full speed ahead, that's really the beauty of getting this to work. And being willing to say, no, that's not a good one. That product's not going to work. It's too expensive, or it's going to be too difficult, or it infringes on someone's patent, for whatever reason. When we abandon an idea, saying no to an idea is just as important as the ideas that we say yes to.
Sure. I love all of that. There's so many good points there. Just that I was hearing, about delegating and culture, and I do agree with you on culture. That is so immensely important because, I've been very blessed that I've had mentors, incredible mentors, my whole career. I've just always had really great people, and I do believe everything starts from the top. I think it really starts with the leadership, and it all falls down from there. And a lot of times when people are in organizations and they don't realize why the team is such a mess, you got to look at the top. You got to look at what's going on up there because they're setting the stage. So you said so many great points there. I love it. And I love that you guys are evolving. And even the fact that you've got this whole, because I always talk about too, just when you can partner up with somebody that has maybe something that they bring a strength that maybe is not something that you're as good at. So like you were talking about, you're an idea maker. I'm an idea maker, so I can definitely understand. I always joke about this, that I'm the person that has these great ideas. I never know how they're going to play out. Like, I don't know how all the details are going to roll out. That's why I find people that can do that, because that's not the part I enjoy doing.
That's right.
So I think it's great when you can find that partnership that you can take strengths of, different individuals, pull them together. And that's why you guys are being able to be successful. You've got enough people bringing their strengths to the table that you guys can pull that together. So I love it. All of it. It's awesome. So many great things there.
Thank you.
So many great things there. So I want to jump into your band a little bit, because I think this is such a neat side of what you're doing. This is like an extension of your creativity that you are, because obviously you've got some creativity there. And so you've got this. So how long is this band? Like, when did you guys form this?
Well, we started doing the music 6 years ago, but we started the band 5 years ago. And actually, my husband was a big part of that starting. We met right about 5 years ago. And he had a couple of corporate bands that he had done in the past. And he knew that I played guitar and that I sang. And he said, "Oh, you should do that. You should do more of that." And I lost a bet with some salespeople on our team, and they hit their targets that I had given them. And I kind of, was this, if you do this, you can have me do something silly or stupid at the high tech. And I thought it was going to be a pie in the face. I don't know. And then there was a challenge for me to get up on stage and sing a song. And then it was to play an electric guitar, and I'd never played electric guitar before. And so it just kind of kept steamrolling from the team. And so we did that first gig, which was at the House of Blues in New Orleans, which is a pretty fun place to have a first show. That's a pretty sweet first show to give.
Yeah.
And then we did it yearly thereafter. And then over the last couple of years, we started playing locally. And it was just hilarious because in the Dallas area, I played at a couple of venues in town, Hanks and McKinney and Guitars and Growlers and Richardson and McKinney. And as we started playing these local venues, the manager came out afterwards, like with money and with the booking book, and said, "So, like we need to get you on the books for these other shows, and here's your money." And I was like, "You're paying me? Usually I pay for the place." And then like, we pay to play. It's not that you pay us to play. They're like, "Oh, no, we're going to pay you to be here." So that was super fun. And the team just loved it. And it turned into this really part of our culture where anybody could try out to be in the band. And we had people that had never played their instrument before. Or we had a guitar player that we didn't need another guitar player, and we needed a bass player. So he learned the bass, and he's a phenomenal bass player. We had a drummer. We needed a drummer, and there was a guy that we knew, one of my heads of network engineering, and he played in college for the drum corps, like the marching band. And I was like, "It's just a drum. You just have to hit it. How hard can it be? Come on." And he got a drum kit, and he learned the songs on the drum kit, and he became a rock band drummer. And so really just the ability to do something new, to put yourself out there, to know that you're not going to be perfect. Because I don't know about you. I don't want to look bad. I don't want to sound bad. I don't want to get up in front of people, especially when I'm getting up in front of industry people who know me as a serious executive who takes her job very seriously. Music was always a private thing for me. I mean, when I was a kid growing up, I played in my room, locked away. I never played in public, ever. I just didn't like to do it until I played with church and did some church stuff. But if I was just by myself playing, I was always by myself, off to the corner. My mom would kind of hide at the door so she could hear if the lessons she'd paid for were doing any good. Right. But to do this now in front of everybody and in front of the company, and to hear the company members just, people jumping in, singing. We had two people from the team, the Jashandra Crockett, who has a way better voice than I will ever have. She runs our customer service center. And she jumped in. My admin at the time, Caroline Eaton, they sang backup on one song on one part, and we had three of our guys sing backup. And so we had almost 11 people on stage at one point on one of the shows, and everyone had something to offer. And they're great musicians, but really it's about community.
Yeah.
Getting together in a different way, talking to each other in a different way. I mean, me starting a song on the wrong verse, which happened live at a show, and having someone go, verse two.
Oh my goodness.
And give me, and give me hell for, like, I will never, ever, ever be allowed to forget that I started with the wrong verse, or that I skipped the part. I mean, like I mess up all the time. I'm not used, like I said, I'm not used to playing in front of people. Sure. And so I will learn the words to the songs that I have to sing, or I will learn the guitar part that I have to play. But when I have to put all of that together and then I get to do it in front of people, it's a whole nother level of things to do, which is exciting and it's wonderful. But sometimes I get so excited by it that I get lost. Not so much anymore, but I used to get lost a lot. And so it didn't matter if it was someone from the stock room or from network engineering or from sales, like whoever it was that was in the band at the time, they would just go, seriously, Ogle, will you just hit your line? So that freedom, right?
Yeah.
That freedom to not be perfect, to not be asked to be perfect, but to be able to get criticism from any member of the team, and just that jocular fun togetherness that we were able to have through the music. And now we're doing original music, which is even another level of vulnerability and fun.
Yeah.
So it's just the creative aspect of sharing together, creating together, being vulnerable and putting something out there that, like, so the music that I've written, putting something out there that I've written. And we have this really fun new piece where I sent it out because it was a song that Paul and I wrote this year over Easter about being home, stuck at home for COVID, and having wine before the sun had gone down. It's called I'm All Lit Up Before the Sun Went Down. So I sent it to a couple of the guys in the band, and they each recorded their own part that they created. And they did a little video cue, which I'd never seen, with them. And then they added their part and they mixed their part in. And the next one recorded his part and he mixed his part in. So truly this collaborative thing that we were able to create more than we started with by bringing everybody in together.
Yeah. No, I love it. Yeah. I mean, there's so many great things here. I keep hearing the culture. Like, I just keep hearing that in what you're saying, is that it's so much about the culture, because, and even too, the being, when you talked about earlier about, you know, being in front of people and messing up. And I think there's some greatness when you have that vulnerability, that when you can learn to just sort of kind of laugh at yourself and welcome that criticism a little bit, you know, like, you're not just so uptight about, like, oh my gosh, somebody's not going to like something I have to say or do, or, you know, when you can just be like, I'm not going to be perfect all the time, and I'm okay with that. I think that's just a great feeling.
It's so important, because I think this is something that men do really well and women do not do really well.
Right.
Men do a really good job. And we won't talk about the people that we see doing this day in and day out in the media, that do this every day, that they'll say something and they don't say something that's correct. They don't get the facts right, or they don't say it in a way that's appropriate. They don't care. They just let it go. And because they don't care and they just let it go, it's allowed to stand. Yet a woman will stand up, make a mistake, and feel bad. It's like, I feel shame because I am not perfect. And that ownership of I am not perfect allows someone else to give more criticism to that woman for not being perfect, because women don't have any obligation to be perfect any more than men do. We're just as human, but for some reason there's not the grace offered the same way. It's like you said, it starts at the top. It starts at home.
Yeah.
First, you have to look yourself in the mirror and understand that you're not perfect in the mirror yourself, because, you know, my children know that I am not perfect. They know that. Like, if I think that they think that I'm perfect, I'm wrong. They can list all of my imperfections first, anyone.
Yeah.
And so they love me anyway. Right. I don't have to be perfect for them. And so they know that I love them and they're not perfect. And so that's actually something my daughters and I say to each other. I said, I am not perfect, but I am perfect for you. And you are not perfect, but you are perfect for me. And at work, it's the same thing, right? We don't have to be perfect, but we have to stop holding ourselves accountable to perfection.
That's great. I love it. So much greatness there. So much. Thank you for all of that. So I want to ask you some fun questions. I always like to do these. I call these my rapid fire. Not that everything you have said has been on point 100%, but I always like to do these because I like to humanize you a little bit. Let's see. Cat or dog person?
Dog.
No cats, just dogs. I figured I saw the dog. She said, he or she, I can see him sitting back there. All right. And Vanessa, what would you say is your favorite food?
I love pasta.
Pasta.
I love pasta.
I
shouldn't, but I love pasta.
Pasta is good. I like lasagna. Pasta is good. I'm with you. All right. And if you could be any superhero or a character for a day, what would you pick?
I kind of feel like I'm already Batman.
That's good.
I have my job and my night job, and
you do. Yeah. No, you do. But you know what? The common thread between the two things that you have going on is your creativity. That's the two things that bridge your business
Yes.
and your music together, is that creativity.
Yes.
So I totally, and I think it's so neat. It's almost like you're living these two lives that are completely different, but you've got that bridge in the middle there. And so I think that's so great that you have that ability to be able to do that. So fun. So in Vanessa's eyes, I'm going to ask you this question: what does success look like to you?
I feel like I have success right now for me in that my children are happy and they're healthy, and I am happy and healthy. I'm grateful where I am. So to a point where I am grateful. I have a husband who loves me and supports me.
Got it.
That's a win.
That's right. And it's all harmony. It's all about the harmony, right? I love it.
It is.
This has been so awesome, Vanessa. So if our listeners wanted to find out a little bit more about you and Enseo and what you've got going on, your band, Jim, where do they come find you at?
So they can find more about me and what I'm doing from a business perspective. I have a newsletter on LinkedIn called Vanessa Unplugged. And so I write my Vanessa Unplugged. It comes every week. And then I have the Gem has a website. So thegemband.com. If people want to follow that. And then on Twitter, they can find me at Vanessa Ogle.
Awesome. And we'll be sure when this goes out, we'll put all the contact. We got some scrolling on the screen, but we'll make sure we get it all out there so they can find you in the different platforms and everything. So it's been so much fun. Yeah, it's been so much fun. So I want to tell you thank you for being our guest on here. And I do want to say to our listeners, of course, if you love our podcast, please be sure you give us a rating both on Facebook and iTunes, because we can't do this without you. And hit the subscribe button on the YouTube channel. And with that, I want to leave you guys with a final thought. Thank you, Vanessa. You've been amazing. I'm so glad we got you on here today. And so favorable circumstances may be pleasant, but they rarely strengthen one's character. The greater the person, the greater the adversity he or she has to overcome. All right, you guys, take care, be safe, and be kind to one another. We'll see you next time.